Greetings to all, and welcome to Tahiti Monday, Marbles on Stream Tilted. This is the second episode, Beginner Techniques and Strategies. Let's get right into it. As crescents and corners are your greatest allies, make sure you're always looking out for these helpful situations. Even X rooms with walls have corners that you can utilize if you spot them. Just be careful on those entrances on the side so your marbles don't split further. Crescents with walls also have corners hidden in them as well. If you get past those crescents, you can then backtrack into where the wall meets the crescent, and that will get you further in with a beautiful line. Just make sure you're careful not to get marbles stuck. Take a small roll out first, and that'll keep your marbles from getting separated. Other corners you can look out for are on the back sides of other corners, such as the left rights. They do have corners in the front that you can use on your way in, but they also have corners on the back, which you can then use on the way out. Now that you're in your corner, you need to figure out how you're going to execute your run on the map. Best idea is to always look for your stopping points. And while we do have a lot of corners present to stop in this particular arrangement, we're going to be aiming for this far corner on the right here. In order to get to this corner easily, we want to be coming out of the left-hand side of this room, the right-hand side of this room, and the left-hand side of this board. So we are going to have our marbles corrected already on the left-hand side of the board, and we will go through the pathing as we described, and taking note of any places we can recover should something go wrong. We know where corners are, we know where we can go backwards, we know where we can't go backwards. We've already put into our minds how to best get through the tile sets in order to get to the spot we want to get to. Don't try to beat the whole level in one motion. Divide it into small chunks and take care of each chunk as it comes. That'll keep your focus where it needs to be and keep you from being overwhelmed by more difficult levels. Another advantage to pathing out your map is being able to go for a long peel. Believe it or not, it's actually the best to be going as fast as possible for control, because over time the marbles will get the same line and the same momentum, making them respond the same to your inputs. That reduces scatter and makes it more easy to correct along the way. So whenever possible, do go for the long peels, and that will work in your favor for the long run. Another issue people will struggle with is hitting a wall too hard and getting that scatter in your marbles. On the easier levels, it's usually quite easy to collect your marbles by just going in a single direction to get everyone's momentum in one direction the same to prevent further scatter, and then aiming for a corner or a crescent to collect in. This particular technique is more generally known as the ugly. Simply slamming into a wall, but getting all your marbles in the same direction in one line, maybe not the other line, and then getting everyone into a corner or a collecting area to regroup. However, there is another way on the fly which you can use to mitigate the wall scatter, and that is related to the dead stop technique. Instead of slamming into the wall at full speed, try to slow your marbles down as much as possible before hitting the wall, and then very slowly crumple into the wall with that line as slow as possible. This will reduce the side momentum the marbles have when they bounce into each other, hitting along the wall, and that will give you more control and less scatter coming off of a single wall collision should you need to change direction without a corner. And again, still use that to collect into your next available spot, either a crescent or a corner, to make sure all your marbles are back into the same line and momentum, and that'll get you through to the next stage of your map. The more general use for the ugly is getting scattered marbles to be in a tight group. You want to approach a flat surface while having hands off of the controls. They will bounce off the flat surface into more or less a straight line, which you then can put into a corner or other collection area to get yourself into the next section. If you're going head on without a straight angle, go as slow as possible to keep the scatter to a minimum, and then that will allow you to collect your marbles into the side and get into the rest of the map. Sometimes you want to have a corner or a crescent to correct your marbles in as you approach a new tile. You can actually use the sides of any flat surface to correct your marbles, either a wall or a square, and get your marbles back into a relatively straight line while progressing through the tile. Just be sure to use very small corrections as you do this so that you're not scattering the marbles further. Some corners are not going to be perfect 90-degree angles, and it could be a little tricky getting a hang of these corners. They are still useful in getting the marbles grouped up in a straight line, but they do take some finessing to utilize appropriately. You can't just hold both directionals at the same time to slide into the corner. You will have to slide back and forth on the corners until the marbles get themselves in a small, compact group. Any scattering can be corrected by just routinely going back and forth and slowing down as they go against the line. And you can do this in any direction, either going forward or going to the side. Just hold the single directional that you need and very slightly correct against the direction of the other line. A final strategy that you'll find useful pretty much the entirety of the game is the just ram it in strategy. You get through most of the map, all your marbles scatter right at the end, and you don't know what to do. As long as you have a narrower, a divider room, an X, or even a volcano, you can just pretty much hold forward and all the marbles will eventually get themselves in. If the wind bin's off to one side or the other, you'll just have to correct to that side to make sure your marbles get in. It works on either side of those narrowing pieces, so it doesn't really matter. Just push them in and you'll finish out that level. And that is how I do it. This has been our beginner techniques and strategies video for teaching tilting. If you want to catch us live on Sundays on Twitch, you can ask your questions in chat. We'll get to them in real time. So lots of fun to be had over there. Hope to see you all for that, and we'll see you in the next episode for Tahiti Monday.